Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over and talking about the Orioles and Astros Game 1 of this 4-game series against the Astros that started today. It's going to end on Sunday. That game ended about 5 minutes ago, so we're going to be going over that game. And we're also going to be talking about some Lamar Jackson injury updates that we got today. Obviously, yesterday, if you tuned in and saw what happened, there was a big Lamar Jackson injury scare. There was reports that he went down with a wrist injury. Then there was reports that he got his foot stepped on and that he's fine. And there was just a lot of misleading reports yesterday that had a lot of Ravens fans, including myself, kind of tuned into the news today to figure out whether Lamar Jackson was good or not. And I will say that he did not practice today, which raised the concern even more. But we kind of got reassured that everything is going to be good post-game. And let's just get right into it. So going over this Lamar Jackson injury news first. So yesterday, obviously, there was a lot of kind of misleading reports. There was reports that he went down with a wrist injury. There was reports that he got his foot stepped on, that he's okay. And then Tylan Wallace was saying that they're going to keep him in his prayers and that he'll be back sooner than expected. So that was all a little bit worrying yesterday. Obviously, I think that overall, I think that everything was good yesterday, but it was something to monitor and something that was a little bit scary. But then going into today, we started off today with figuring out that Lamar Jackson was not at Ravens training camp today, along with some other starters like Zay Flowers wasn't there, DeAndre Hopkins wasn't there, Jair Alexander wasn't there. There was other Ravens starters that weren't at training camp today. So to not see Lamar Jackson there was a little bit concerning because, again, you never, when your quarterback's not at training camp for a day, that is concerning, even though Lamar has been there every single day so far. With all the news yesterday and all the concern and all the confusion yesterday, Lamar was not at practice today. And obviously the big question was, what's going on with Lamar? So post-game, everyone, including myself, was tuned into John Harbaugh's post-game press conference or post-practice press conference, where he kind of just was answering questions about the practice and the state of the team and stuff like that, because we are actually now exactly 2 weeks away from the NFL season starting. Obviously, the Ravens don't play in 2 weeks. They play in 2 weeks from this Sunday. In 2 weeks from today, it's going to be Cowboys-Eagles Game 1 of the season, which is the official start of the season, so that's going to be very exciting. But obviously, the first question that John Harbaugh got in the press conference was about Lamar Jackson's foot injury or about his wrist injury or whatever it was. That's what people were trying to figure out. So they asked John Harbaugh about what happened, and he said that he got X-rays on his foot because he said he got his foot stepped on. He said they got X-rays. It was all negative. Everything was good to go. The X-rays were negative, and Lamar Jackson was completely fine. He said it was just a little bit sore today. That's why he didn't show up to practice as a precautionary thing, because it was sore. But then John Harbaugh was also saying, I kept him in my prayers and I told the guys to pray for him because, this could have been something scary. But it, ended up not being anything scary. Everything is completely fine. Everything is good. He didn't practice today because of a sore foot, but everything is going to be good to go and fine. And after we heard that confirmation from John Harbaugh, it was a big sigh of relief for everybody just to know that, it wasn't anything too crazy or too serious. But I think everyone had an extra sigh of relief once they saw this Lamar Jackson comment on an Instagram post that ESPN posted. So Adam Schefter went on ESPN NFL today, and he was basically, asking the question that, is Lamar Jackson's foot injury scarier than the Ravens are letting on? Basically, he was saying, are the Ravens trying to, hide this injury? Are, the Ravens lying to the public and saying that this injury isn't too serious when behind the scenes, maybe it is super serious? So he was kind of going on this whole rant talking about, is this, a big deal that we got to monitor, even though John Harbaugh says it's not. Is this something that actually is serious? Because there's been situations in the past where a coach, will say that something's not serious, much like Christian McCaffrey last season, how a lot of training camp and stuff like that, they were saying that he's going to be good to go week 1, and then he didn't play until week 8. Obviously, this is a lot different of a situation, but it was just an example kind of the coaching staff kind of misleading the public and downplaying a situation. And that's kind of what Adam Schefter was saying today in this little segment that he had on ESPN NFL. And it was this whole like serious conspiracy thing, and Lamar Jackson himself probably sitting on his couch at home, taking the day off, resting that foot, making sure the foot is ready to go for hopefully tomorrow's practice. But Lamar Jackson on his couch today just sent the laughing emoji in the comments section. I actually don't think the Ravens have practice tomorrow, but Lamar Jackson sent the laughing emoji in the comments section, pretty much reassuring us right there that I think everybody's blowing this whole, foot soreness, stepped on the foot, held out of practice thing out of they're blowing this out of proportion. Because to Lamar Jackson, and I'm sure the entire Ravens staff, he's got his foot stepped on yesterday. Obviously, for precautionary reasons, they did the X-rays. They sat him out. They sat him out for today because he was sore. And this is all a very precautionary thing. Lamar Jackson himself even confirms this with the laughing emoji, kind of laughing at the fact that people are taking this so seriously. But that pretty much confirms right there that Lamar Jackson is good to go. So a big sigh of relief for all Ravens fans and all, Lamar Jackson fantasy football owners as well. Just a big sigh of relief there. Lamar Jackson will be playing week 1 against Buffalo. Everything is going to be okay. So let's all take a deep breath and chill out on Lamar Jackson. He'll be back at practice next week, I'm sure, after this last preseason game that the Ravens play this weekend. I'm sure Lamar is going to be back and ready to go. And what John Harbaugh was kind of saying throughout his press conference as well was obviously about the Lamar Jackson stuff, but also kind of saying that today's practice was very centered on the game this weekend. For the final preseason game, once again, there's going to be no starters playing. We're going to see reps with Mike Green, see reps with Malachi Starks and stuff like that. But for the true offensive starters, there's going to be no one out there. So that's good. Getting the guys ready for the NFL season that starts now in 2 weeks. So we're getting closer and closer to that. But now switching things up and going over to baseball. Obviously, the Orioles game ended like 10 minutes ago. And the Orioles unfortunately lose this game 7-2 to the Houston Astros. The Astros have been going through a lot of struggles here recently. They were outscored like 30-2 in their last like 5 games heading into today. So the Astros were playing their worst baseball of the season heading into this series against Baltimore. And some of their worst baseball that they played was against the Orioles in last weekend's series. Because obviously the Orioles and Astros played last weekend in that 3-game series where the Orioles took 2 out of 3 from the Astros in Houston. But now we've got a 4-game series here in Baltimore where unfortunately the Orioles lose game 1 of the series 7-2. Brandon Young pitched for the first time since his near-perfect game last Friday. And if you remember, that was actually against the Astros. It was literally against the exact same, against the exact same team just, less than a week ago was Brandon Young's last start. Obviously, big expectations, following that incredible performance. And let's just say Brandon Young did not live up to those expectations. He had a pretty horrible game today. And it was a game that Brandon Young kind of was like, this has been like the Brandon Young special. This is really like kind of who he is as a pitcher. We understand that he's not a very good pitcher. Like, we understand that as an Orioles fan base, we understand that. Obviously, what happened last week was incredible. The near perfect game was absolutely incredible. It was so unbelievably cool to see him almost get there. And I was really hoping, and I said it in last week's episode as well, I was really hoping that start last week for Brandon Young was going to be like a Kickstarter for him to start playing very well to close out the season. But unfortunately, in his very next start against the exact same team he almost got a perfect game on, he goes out there, gives up 7 runs in 5.1 innings, 9 hits, 7 runs, 2 homers, only 1 strikeout across those 5 innings. It was a very rough outing for Brandon Young today. A very big reality check in a way for Brandon Young. Again, you think back to just last Friday where he went like 23 straight batters in a row, retired 23 straight batters, went 8 innings, no runs, 1 hit, no walks. Like, it was an incredible outing. Still, the best Orioles pitching, of the season, and honestly one of the better outings by any pitcher in baseball this season, but he follows up that outing with just a horrible, pretty much the complete opposite of what he did last week, where today everything was put in play, led on 11 base runners in 5 innings, 7 runs. It was just a very rough day for Brandon Young. And I don't really know what Brandon Young's future on the Orioles is going to be, because we are going to be getting Kyle Bradish back in the sometime early next week in the series against Boston, is where we're most likely going to see Kyle Bradish come back. So I do think that Brandon Young is the person that's going to kind of get pushed out of this lineup, which really sucks because it kind of has been a whole roller coaster for him recently. But just a really tough game for him today. The bullpen came in and they actually did pretty good. Grant Wolfram, Corbin Martin, and Geraldo all came in and didn't let up a run for the rest of the game after the 6th inning where Brandon Young got pulled. But just overall, the pitching was just not very great for the Orioles today. The Astros kind of found their groove offensively. They had 12 hits today. Jesus Sanchez had 5 of those hits. He went 5 for 5. And the Orioles hitting did okay. They only scored 2 runs, and both runs were driven in by Dylan Beavers. And we'll go over Dylan Beavers in just a second because he had a great game today. He's definitely player of the game on offense. But overall, this Orioles game was a little bit rough. The offense had their opportunities to score, but they just couldn't necessarily bring guys in. They left 10 guys on base. They went 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Jackson Holliday was leading the things off. He went 1 for 5. And actually, a cool thing about this Orioles game is that every single player on the Orioles today actually had a hit. The Orioles had 9 hits, and all 9 Orioles in this game all had 1 hit. So 9 total hits for the Orioles. Everybody had a hit. Nobody had 2 hits. Nobody had 0 hits, but everybody had 1 hit. So I think that was a little funny right there. But Jackson Holliday, 1 for 5. Jeremiah Jackson was batting second today because Jordan Westbrook is still out with that injury. Jeremiah Jackson was also playing third. But they're saying that Jordan Westbrook could be out for another 4 to 5 games. But it is still very possible that he could avoid IL, which is going to be very interesting to see. But also, some other big news regarding an Orioles injury is Adley Rutschman did get put on the 10-day IL for the abdominal strain. And Tony Mansolino said that he's not sure if Adley's going to play again this year. So, again, that opens things up completely for Samuel Basallo to be the full-time catcher for the Baltimore Orioles moving forward throughout this year. And after we go over this game, we'll discuss Adley Rutschman for, just briefly, because there is a conversation that might need to be made for that. If Samuel Basallo performs very well, if Adley Rutschman doesn't play for the rest of the year, which is looking very likely that that's going to be the case, if Adley Rutschman plays very well if Basallo plays very well the rest of the year, if he goes out there and just crushes it like he's been doing for the rest of this season, all the way until the end of September, then there's going to be a conversation about Adley Rutschman and kind of what you do with him, because Adley, over the past, now more than a calendar year, ever since the start of the second half in 2024, he just has not been the same player hitting-wise. I mean, there's been flashes, obviously, of, the Adley of old, but he just has not been the same Adley Rutschman and the same player that we know him as. Obviously, this is his second IL stint of the year. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know what it is. But Adley is just not playing like the guy that we know that he can be. But then you also have Samuel Basallo, who is the number 1 catching prospect in baseball, the Orioles' number 1 prospect, one of the most exciting young players in baseball, and also the youngest player on this team. And he's been out there, and again, it's a very small sample size. He's had 4 games so far. Today he did get a base hit. It was his first hit in Baltimore in his home debut, which was cool to see. And he also didn't strike out at all. But, you have Basallo, and you kind of start to think, do you want to give the keys to Samuel Basallo, or do you want to keep Adley Rutschman long-term and then have Basallo kind of be like a backup catcher, DH, backup first baseman hybrid? So that's going to be up to the management, obviously, of this team moving forward. But it is a conversation that you might need to start having depending on what Basallo does the rest of the year. But again, Jeremiah Jackson, 1 for 5 in this game. Gunnar Henderson went 1 for 5. Ryan Mountcastle went 1 for 4. Colton Cowser went 1 for 3 with a run scored. Samuel Basallo went 1 for 4. He got his first base hit in Camden Yards in Baltimore in his home debut. So that was really cool to see. Basallo's average over his first 4 games, a 286. Kobe Mayo went 1 for 4. And then Dylan Beavers, the man of the hour, the man of the game, drove in both of the Orioles' runs in this game. He went 1 for 3 with a hit. He went 1 for 3 with a run scored, 2 RBIs, a walk, and a solo home run that happened in the second inning of this game. In his first plate appearance, in his first time being in Baltimore, his first plate appearance in his home debut, Dylan Beavers hit a ball deep right field out to the flag courts over by Utah Street in right field. Dylan Beavers played a great game today. He continues to just produce for Baltimore. Every single game he's played, he's gotten on base in every single game. I think he's had a hit in like 4 of the 5 games that he's played. He's been great. Today went 1 for 3 with a solo home run. Also drove in an RBI off of a fielder's choice RBI. So Dylan Beavers brought in all of the Orioles' runs today. He was pretty much the entire offense, I guess, for runs scored. He brought in both of the RBIs, or brought in both of the runs for the Orioles today. And he also got his first home run of his career in his home debut in his first at-bat in Baltimore. It was a really cool story, really cool moment. Unfortunately, the Orioles were losing 4-0 at the time, but he made it 4-1. But Dylan Beavers gets his first big league home run in his first at bat in his home debut, which is a really, really cool thing to see. All we need now is Samuel Basallo to get his first home run, and hopefully Basallo can get that sometime during this weekend series, either tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday. Hopefully we can see Basallo get his first major league home run, and hopefully it can be in the city of Baltimore. And then Dylan Carlson also went 1 for 3 in this game. So every single Oriole had a hit today. Nobody went hitless, but also nobody had multiple hits. Dylan Beavers, obviously player of the game today with his first big league home run, and also bringing in all of the Orioles' runs in this game. But again, the pitching we already really went over. Brandon Young, he's now 1-7 on the year. His only win being his last start, where he almost had a perfect game against the Astros, and then he faces the Astros in his very next start and gives up 7 runs in 5 innings. Just not a great day for him. But overall, just a pretty rough game. It was really nice to see Dylan Beavers get his first home run. That was definitely like the highlight of the game, and it was cool to see Basallo get a hit as well. But overall, kind of a rough game for the Orioles. But going into the game tomorrow, it is going to be Lance McCullers Jr. for the Astros versus Cade Povich. Both of these pitchers have struggled heavily throughout this year. I know Lance McCullers Jr. has struggled a lot. He's sitting at like a 7 ERA in 44 innings pitched. Cade Povich is sitting at like pretty much a 5 ERA in 81 innings pitched. And Cade Povich, overall, he's put up a couple of like decent starts here recently. Cade Povich, again, he is a younger player, a younger pitcher, and I'm not sure I'm ready to kind of fully commit and trust Cade Povich, but he has another chance to go out and prove himself tomorrow, and hopefully Cade Povich can get it done for the Orioles tomorrow. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify, make sure to like the video on YouTube as well. Also, make sure to follow the Twitter and the Instagram of Birds of a Feather. It's going to be the link in the bio of whatever platform you're listening on. And good episode today. The Lamar Jackson news has been completely kind of debunked, and we can all cool down and chill out. Lamar Jackson kind of responded himself with a funny little emoji, and John Harbaugh also responded and kind of cooled the entire situation down, so we can all take a little chill pill on this Lamar Jackson thing. He's healthy, he's ready to go, he's good to go, he's going to be ready week 1. There's nothing to worry about now. And then the Orioles, obviously tough loss today. Dylan Beavers gets his first career home run today, which is really cool to see, and hopefully Basallo can get his sometime this weekend. But I'll have another episode up sometime tomorrow night talking about Game 2 of this series, where hopefully the Orioles can tie this series 1-1 with 2 games remaining on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll see what happens. I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great Steelers day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.